All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. Happy New Year to all of you. Glad you're here. Welcome to all of you joining us online. Glad you're joining us tonight. Glad you're part of this community, whatever state you're joining us from, or even throughout the week, because maybe you're not watching live, but you'll see this later in the week. And welcome to you. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here. This is Noelle. She is the community director here. And just to give you the reminder, Free is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And there's always one thing we don't do in this community. You can shout it out on a count of three. 1, 2, 3.
We don't do shame.
We don't do shame. Noelle, tell us things that we do here in this community.
We do welcome bags. So if tonight's your first night here with us, welcome. We are so grateful you're here with us. Get with a home team member or a free staff member, and we'll get you hooked up with a welcome bag. And inside this welcome bag, it has a little bit about what we do here at Free Recovery Community. There's some fresh roasted wagon coffee in this bag, so the same coffee that's served in the cafe right next door. And then also just some other free swag items. So get a welcome bag. Know that we are so grateful that you're here with us tonight, and I hope you hear something tonight that keeps you coming back. So next up, on January 23rd, it's the fourth Thursday of the month. We do this every other month. We are kicking off our fourth year of our Sober Open Mic series. Time flies when you're having fun. I know it. So we team up with the Phoenix on this every year, and we could not do this without our sponsors, the Hornbuckle Foundation and CARE, Colorado Artists in Recovery. But it's the fourth Thursday of every other month, so we're kicking off in January. Doors open at 6 p.m. You can grab a cup of coffee, the cafe next door, and then the performances start at 7 p.m. in this room. If you guys have never been, it is an incredible night. Great energy in this room.
Raise your hand if you've been to a Sober Open Mic night. Yeah, a few of you. All right, if you haven't been, this is your time, January 23rd.
Left side, I didn't see a lot of hands raised, so I expect it to be a little bit higher here in a couple months. It's a great time. But if you are attending or performing, you must register. You can do so on our website or the Phoenix's website, but please register, and it's a great time. So next up, we have kicking off on January 16th. It's a Thursday. Carrie, our Associate Executive Director, that's very apropos timing. She is going to be co-leading a book study for us. It'll be noon to 1 p.m. on Thursdays until April 17th on the woman's way through the 12 steps. So the first 2 weeks of this book study is going to be kind of a meet and greet. And then from there, the third week on until April 17th, they will be going through a step a week. So maybe you're just looking for some more community around the fourth step or maybe the ninth step. And if you want to just pick out that 1 week and attend, you're welcome to do so. Or if you would like to attend every single week, that's great too. So feel free to attend every week or just a one-off, but we're kicking that off on January 16th, and it'll go to April 17th, noon to 1 p.m. in the cafe right next door.
January 15th.
January 6th.
January 15th through April 16th.
January 15th through April 16th.
I mean, I'm just looking at the flyer.
Nope,
just facts here,
so
just facts.
January 15th to April 16th. My apologies.
There you go.
Yeah, I was off.
Okay, thank you, Noelle.
I
is that it?
I have one more thing.
Do
Is that
another
okay?
one. Please do.
All right. Next up, last up, if you are looking to get more involved in Free and you don't know how to do so, we encourage you to get with our tech team in the back, and no experience is required. We've got our guys back there, Matthew and Chance. They're incredible, and it's a great way, even if you can only attend the 5 p.m. service or the 7 p.m. service, but it's a great way to get more plugged in here at Free. So if you're looking for a way to volunteer in this community and don't know how to go about doing that, get with a staff member or just go visit with the tech team after service, and think about signing up for tech team. It's a good time.
It will be a good time for those in the back. All right.
Now I am done.
Thank you, Noelle. So good to have you here. But I do have one more announcement for y'all. Yeah, we're going to clap for her. Yeah. Make her feel real good about herself. Yes. Thank you, Noelle. Hey, I want to let you know the remodeling of the bathrooms has started. So here's why I'm telling you this. If you remember, we did a big fundraiser for this. You all were very generous, so the work has started. It's going to take about another 3 or 4 weeks. The women's is totally gutted, so it's closed. Here's where it gets confusing. Women, you can use the men's bathroom. Men, you cannot use the women's bathroom because there's nothing in it. There is a porta potty outside in the back. It's clean. It's nice. We've done worse. And then there's a bathroom just down this hallway by the cafe if you want to use that one. But women, you can use the men. Men, you can use the hallway bathroom or the porta potty outside. And in about 4 weeks, we'll have new bathrooms and back to normal schedule. How's that? Yeah, very good. All right, y'all, the way we get started here in this community on a Saturday night is with celebrations. We start with the good, we lift up the good, we remember the good. A profound time that we get to have together as a community to celebrate one another, to have God join with us in the celebrations. We take 3 minutes for this. Who's going to have a mic? Teresa will have a mic. Kai will have a mic. Just raise up your hand if you have a celebration you want to share. Maybe you're celebrating a sobriety anniversary or birthday or whatever the new thing in your recovery, your life is. We celebrate it all here. If you're online joining us, simply drop your celebration in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments, whatever platform you're joining us from, and we'll celebrate with you there. Let's take 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Juanita Johnson. I have been sober from methamphetamines for 12 months. It's been
Yeah, that's a celebration. There you go.
It's been a battle. I picked up drinking every now and then. I haven't done that. So I'm going through it, you know. I got my high days, my low days, but I'm back in contact with the recovery coach, with the sober community again.
All right.
Just getting involved again because, you know, I need my life to be more uplifting instead of feeling stuck sometimes and feeling like I need to go back to them people, places, and things. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to celebrate the fact that I'm back and I'm going to keep moving forward.
Celebrate it. Thank you, Juanita. There you go.
My name is Richard, and I just want to give God the glory and celebrate all the lives that are affected by his servant, Liz. Everybody that is here that is supporting Liz, please stand up. Everybody that's here to support Liz, please stand up.
This
Come
is our
on.
guest storyteller tonight.
She's
Yeah.
had a profound effect in the recovery community.
She's got some support in the room.
There you go.
All right.
A beautiful thing. Let's go. Come on.
My name is Josie, and I just celebrated 4 months of sobriety.
Way to go, Josie.
My name is Charlie, and I have 437 days sober.
437. Way to go, Charlie.
My name is Layla, and I'm 2 days sober.
All right, Layla, we're glad you're here. Proud of you for being here.
My name's Anthony, and I'm 48 hours without a drink.
All right, Anthony. Way to go, brother.
My name is Brian. I'm celebrating a year of sobriety and clean time, and also just finished my first semester back at the University of Colorado at Denver.
All right, dude. Congratulations. The big stuff.
I'm Dara, and I'm celebrating in my first horse show competition in like 10 years tomorrow. So.
Way to go, Dara. Woo-hoo.
I'm Brett, and I'm celebrating 78 days of sobriety.
Way to go, Brett. Glad you're here. Someone take us out. 5, 4, 3. We got one right here. Cy.
2025, y'all.
2025. We'll celebrate it. Bring it on in. Kai, do you want to join me up here?
Sure.
All right, Kai's going to join me up here. Thank you, Teresa. I'll take that from you. Kai, we will join with our online people. You want to take the first one?
Sure.
All right, you take the first one. I'll take the next one.
All right. Mark Diamond Wonder. My celebration tonight is after 450 days clean and consistently working hard, I got a promotion at work as assistant to local business, and we are franchising nationwide.
Way to go, Mark. Congratulations, buddy. Richard says, celebrating an amazing Christmas in New Mexico with family and mostly with my grandson, Ender. Way to go, Richard. We'll celebrate that with you.
Patrick Cosgrove, celebrating 2 years sober today. Happy New Year's, everyone. Onward
Yeah.
and upward.
Happy 2 years, Patrick.
That's
Is that
it.
all of them? Okay. Thank you, tech team. Thank you, Kai, for being up here. I'll take that from you. Uh-huh. All right, y'all. We are starting a new series tonight. It's a 4-week series. Raise your hand if you've read the book called The Four Agreements. Yeah, it's a good one. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it, by Don Miguel Ruiz. We're going to spend 4 weeks here. The first week is the first agreement: be impeccable with your word.
Who do you aspire to be in the coming year? What values will define your path? Where will you stand firm in your recovery? And what vision do you hold for your life this year? This is your time to create the life you've always envisioned. Join us for the next 4 weeks, and let's walk together to shape your values, your vision, and your future.
So in his book, Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz says to be impeccable with your word. And he goes on to say, this is the first agreement, and it's the one you must make if you truly want to be free. And I would tell you, I think this is perhaps the most difficult agreement to make, and perhaps even the most important one to make. And we will kind of get into all this and break it down, but let's start here. He writes, whenever we hear an opinion and believe it, we make an agreement and it becomes part of our belief system. So my brothers and sisters, I would ask you, what are the opinions from others, the opinions about you that have stuck with you? The ones that actually have an effect on you. In other words, what are the tapes that keep replaying on repeat up here, and these tapes are now perhaps part of your belief system? I remember about the age of 12, a man in my life said some words to me. I'll never forget where we were sitting, who was in the room, who heard these words, and he said to me, he said, Ryan, you will probably live with your mom forever. Here I am, a 12-year-old boy. You'll probably live at home forever, and you'll probably live there till you're at least the age of 30. And I remember the other people in the room laughing. I remember how that word made me feel. That word, it stuck with me. See, I made it my life mission as I got a little older that I'm going to leave home by the age of 18 because I had something to prove. And that's what I did. At 18, I left home, and there's a story in between there, but by the age of 20, I moved out here from Missouri to Colorado. Didn't know anyone out here, didn't have friends or family out here. Maybe not the wisest decision, but I can tell you, in looking back and doing some reflection, today I'm grateful for my life here in Colorado. I met my wife, Tammy, here in Colorado. We had kids together here in Colorado. We've built a life together that I think is worth living here in Colorado. But I would still tell you that it is a terrible way to live if you are living with something to prove because of a word that was spoken to you. And the truth is, some of you, you have that one person in your life, and the word they spoke to you, the word towards you was so negative and so hurtful and so destructive, and you just can't shake it. And the question is, what do you do with the one? And let's for a moment talk about the problem of critique. Because you do know some critique, it just has a way of rolling off of you. It doesn't affect you much. And then other critique, it has a way of sticking with you. It actually shapes the way in which you live. It affects you. Example, I remember my first Sunday at the church where I was appointed to serve as pastor. My first Sunday there, my first sermon given at the church. And the tradition at this church was the pastors would, after the service, they would walk to the back of the sanctuary and they would greet people as they were leaving. And many people, most people would say like very kind and nice and polite things, and they would shake your hand. And there I am, my very first Sunday, and I'm shaking the hands of the people, and most of them are saying kind, polite, nice things. And then there was a little 8-year-old boy. And he says to me, after sticking out his hand to shake my hand, he says to me, Reverend Ryan, I deeply appreciate your sermon this morning. And I'm thinking to myself, what 8-year-old talks like this? And he goes on to say, however, Reverend Ryan, you used a Latin term at the beginning of your sermon, and I just wanted to let you know you mispronounced that term, because if you look at the accents, they're actually over here, and it's pronounced this way rather than this way, and I'm thinking, who is this 8-year-old Latin scholar in my midst? Oh, he had more to say. He said, furthermore, Reverend Ryan, you slightly mishandled the word, because if you look at the context of the community at the time and what was happening, you would see that it was referring to this thing, not this thing. And I thought, oh my goodness, what did I get myself into with this church? 3 years later, no lie, he went on to graduate from the Colorado School of Mines. Now, did his critique of my words, did it affect me? Not really. I actually found it kind of fascinating that he knew this much. I mean, that was interesting to me. Did it hurt? No, this didn't really hurt. Why? Because the truth is, I don't have a lot tied into, I don't have a lot wrapped into being a scholar of a language which is not my own. Didn't hurt. Just found it interesting. Oh, but some of those comments, they hurt, don't they? Yeah, like, I remember when we were starting Free Recovery Community in our backyard in 2018. We were meeting in our backyard that summer, and pretty quickly we grew out of our backyard and we moved in by October to our little space on Arapahoe Road. Who was here? Who remembers Arapahoe Road space? A few of you. Yeah, we moved into that little space, and man, it was this time in our life when there was just so much joy and excitement and kind of that nervous energy, because you didn't know what was going to happen next and where exactly we were going. And a guy reached out to me. He was an acquaintance of mine, and he said he wanted to take me to lunch. He wanted to buy my lunch. So I said, great, let's go to lunch. And we're talking about Free and its growth and what was coming next. And he ends our conversation with, Ryan, I would like to keep meeting with you to be the one in your life to keep you humble. Whew. Yeah, that one hurt. Why'd that one hurt? Why did it affect me? Why didn't I just brush it off? Because the truth is, in that moment, I wanted to reach across the table and shake him and say, dude, are you freaking serious right now? I mean, there has been nothing more in my life that I've entered into with more humility and more fear and more grace and more gratitude. And you're not going to be here to support me when things are hard or celebrate the wins. You want to be here to keep me humble? Oh, how sweet of you. Listen, y'all, some of you, you might have people like that in your life, and I want to remind you, you do not owe them a second lunch. They have stuff going on in here, and they crave power because they maybe lost power somewhere along the way, and they're going to try to get it back through stepping on your neck. And be careful. Choose wisely those that get access to your heart. And on a side note, if you are starting something new in your life, if you are starting a new business, a new project, a new organization, new church, whatever it is, choose wisely the voices that you will listen to. Stop taking advice from those who have started nothing new ever in their life. You don't take their advice. Choose wisely. Their word to you will not be good. It will not be impeccable. But still, what do you do with this stuff? I mean, the comments, what do you do with them? Because the truth is, most of you are not going to go to therapy because of a comment that was made to you. Most of you, many of you are going to be hesitant to pick up the phone and call someone else and talk about this comment that was made to you, because you're going to have a little bit of embarrassment that you're affected by this comment. And so what happens? Well, you hold it all in and it just sits there. And it's not just the words that were spoken to you. It is now the word that you begin to speak to yourself. And what's that look like? Well, it looks like, man, why can't I beat this? Man, why is that comment still waking me up at 3 o'clock in the morning? Man, how does that comment, how does that word have a way of bringing me back to my childhood and all the childhood trauma? Well, why can't I beat this thing? Why is it sticking to me? I'm better than this. I should be able to shake it. One spiritual teacher, he calls this death by paper cuts. That it's easy to name the exhaustion and the burnout and the pain from the big things, but what about all the little things like death by bleeding from 1,000 different paper cuts? And see, the word matters. The word you speak matters. Your word is a gift from God. The word you speak, depending on how you use it, it can either enslave you or it can set you free. It can either cause harm or it can cause healing. And the truth is, you will have in your life 1,000 different voices that are competing in your mind. They are competing to dominate your mind and then dominate your heart. And you will have to choose wisely the voices that actually get a say in your life. And when it comes to the one, that one person, that one word that you cannot shake, you will have to make a decision to center the mind and then the heart on a different word, a life-giving word. And I want to remind you all, this is not like new wisdom. This is not contemporary wisdom. This is actually very ancient stuff that we're dealing with here. So what I want to do with you is, I've got some honey. Ron, I'm going to pass this to you. Carrie, can you catch? I'm going to pass it to Carrie. And then I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to slide it down the middle row all the way to the back. Oh, and I made it at the service. Here's what I want you to do with the honey. You can just remove the cap. It just lifts off. And take a little dab of that sweet honey, put it on your finger, just a little drop. Don't make a mess. And then, after you have it on your finger, you're going to lick the finger and then pass it to the next person. Do not lick the finger of your neighbor. That's going to get creepy and awkward, I promise you. And don't get it all over the seats, because I don't want to stay here late tonight and be cleaning up sticky honey. There's an Old Testament book, or a Hebrew Bible book. It's called Proverbs. And the Proverbs are it's an ancient collection of wisdom sayings. In fact, it's referred to as wisdom literature. These sayings were put together sometime around the 4th century BC, and they're probably much older than this, but they were put together around the 4th century BC. And the Proverbs, they ask questions like, what is the world like, and how does the world work? And here's just a few of the Proverbs and what they say about the power of the word. Check it out. Like this one. Gentle words bring life and health. A deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. How about this one? A person's words can be life-giving water. Words of true wisdom are as refreshing as a bubbling brook. Who doesn't want to be like a bubbling brook? How about this one? Words satisfy the soul as food satisfies the stomach. The right words on a person's lips bring satisfaction. Here's the last one. Kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. And isn't it interesting? In the 1st century Jewish world, the world of Jesus, there was 3 stages of education. The first stage was called Bet Sefer, and it was for children roughly between the ages of 10 and 14. 6 and 10. 6 and 10-year-olds, Bet Sefer. In Bet Sefer, these children would walk to their local synagogue, and they would begin learning from their local synagogue teacher. In Bet Sefer, which translates literally as house of the book, they would begin memorizing Torah. If you're fuzzy on what Torah is, it's what we now have as the first 5 books of the Old Testament, or the Hebrew Bible. So you have Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. They would begin memorizing Torah. Now, there's this really cool tradition that would happen at the first day of class. The Torah teacher, the rabbi, would walk around the classroom to each of the students, and he would have honey with him, and he would cover the slates of each of the students, cover it with honey. Once he got done covering the slates with honey, he would then walk back to the front of the room, and he would have the students raise their slates high in the air, and he would give them this blessing. May these words, the words of Torah, be as sweet as the honey on your lips. And then he would invite these 6 to 10-year-old students to begin licking the honey from their slates. And can you imagine the joy in that room? Licking the sweet honey from their slates. The Psalms, which come right before the Proverbs. It's a collection, ancient collection of poems and prayers. One of the psalmists shouts out these words. Check it out. God, your word is so pleasing to my taste buds. It's sweeter than honey in my mouth. Your word is a lamp before my feet and a light for my journey. And my brothers and sisters, I mention these scriptures to you to remind you that the word God speaks over you, it is always good and kind and sustaining. It's meant to be as sweet as the honey on your lips. And listen, I get it. Religion has not always done a good job with this. Too oftentimes for too many people, God was presented, the word that God was speaking over you was presented as harsh and condemning and judgy and exclusive to the outsider. And I hope you hear this. I hope you believe this. That God is not disappointed in you. God is not angry at you. God is not against you. God is not embarrassed of you or ashamed by you. God isn't speaking a word of hate and condemnation over you. God's word to you is always good, and it's always love. You see, the word matters. It's why Don Miguel Ruiz starts and says the first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. And what in the heck does that mean? What's it mean to be impeccable with your word? Being impeccable is when we use our energy to heal rather than to harm. And he says when we misuse the word towards ourselves, when we are unkind to ourselves, when we speak in an unkind manner to ourselves, it sends us to the deepest kind of hell. And that makes a lot of sense to me. It sends us to the place of disconnection, where you are disconnected from everything meaningful, starting with yourself and God and loved ones and everyone else. You are totally disconnected. He says impeccability means without sin. Impeccable comes from the Latin peccatus. Apparently I pronounced that one wrong too, which means sin. The M in impeccable means without, so impeccable means without sin. And he talks about sin as a way that it goes against yourself, the things we do that go against ourselves. You could also think about sin in the way that the Hebrew scriptures so often talk about it, and that is disruption of shalom. And what is shalom? Peace, healing, wholeness, completeness. Every time we disrupt peace, out there, well, we can think of that as sin. And isn't it interesting? When Jesus would heal people, I mean, when you read through the Gospels and you see these healing stories, Jesus would heal them, then Jesus would always look at them and say, now go and sin no more. Why? Why would Jesus say that? Like in John's Gospel, chapter 8, when the religious leaders, they bring a woman to Jesus who has just been caught in adultery. And they say to Jesus, they're trying to catch him. Is he a good rabbi? Jesus, we caught this woman in adultery. I mean, we should condemn her, right? She's no longer worthy of God's love, right, Jesus? I mean, Jesus, the law is clear on this one. We need to stone her, and not that kind of stone, a different kind of stone. We need to literally pick up rocks, throw them at her, and kill her. And you know what Jesus says? Yeah, all right. Yeah, no, maybe you're right. And I tell you what, you who have done no wrong, you go ahead and pick up the first stone and throw it. And the religious leaders are like, what? You can't do that. And they start to walk away. And then it's just Jesus and the woman, and Jesus looks at her and says, who's condemning you now? And the woman says, well, no one's here. They've all left. No one. And then Jesus speaks the most beautiful word to her. He says, neither do I. Go and sin no more. And y'all, is it possible that Jesus was saying to this woman, go and now be impeccable with your word. Stop letting their word determine your worth and your belonging in the community. I mean, he was empowering this woman to totally live by a different word. It's almost like Jesus knew the word of love and belonging, that's what changes people. It's never condemnation that really creates any sort of change. Go and sin no more. And do you have that? Someone in your life whose word towards you has been so negative, so hurtful, so destructive that you are now questioning your worth and your belonging in the world? Stop letting their word determine who you are and how you live. You can choose, you can make a decision to live by a different word. It is a new year. It's 2025. Go and sin no more. It's 2025. Be impeccable with your word. And listen, y'all, you are not being impeccable with your word when you begin to believe all the opinions about you, and those opinions now become part of your belief system. You are not being impeccable with your word when you treat yourself the way most others are never going to treat you. When you are busy telling yourself, well, I'm not good enough. Well, you got to understand, I just don't have enough. You got to understand how stupid I am, how bad I am because of my past. And the truth is, some of y'all have abused yourself enough, and it's time to stop. Yes. You don't have to do it anymore. Nothing will disrupt shalom faster than your shame. And I'll close with this. In the book, Don Miguel Ruiz, he says the word is like a seed, and the human mind is so fertile. The only problem is that too often it is fertile for the seeds of fear. And I know it can be scary, this being impeccable with your words, speaking to yourself in a kind manner. That's a very scary dilemma for some of us with a past. And y'all, how many of y'all know exactly what it's like to be fertile up here with the seeds of fear? And the truth is, you cannot be impeccable with your word if fear is the only thing growing. You cannot be impeccable with your word if the seeds of fear are the only thing growing. And I would tell you, you might miss out on the best things that God has in store for you. It was 2014. I was just over a year sober, and I was just 2 years into this appointment of being appointed to a church to serve as a full-time pastor. And the DS, the district superintendent, my boss, she wanted to meet with me. And so she came to my office that day, and she sat across the desk, and she begins telling me about this church planting conference that is coming up. And right away, I'm telling myself, no, you got to understand, that ain't for me. I don't want to start anything new. This is 2014. I'm not starting anything new. I had no desire to plant a church or do anything new. I still had a lot of fear in my life. I just wanted to be comfortable. I wanted to play small. And then she dropped the line. She said, well, I just want you to consider it, Ryan. I mean, all expenses would be paid, and it's in Redondo Beach, California in November. You know what I mean? I like beaches, especially in cold weather. My problem has always been selfishness and self-centeredness. So I said to her, well, you know what? I might be able to consider it. I mean, maybe there's some free time in my schedule. Maybe I can go. So I get on a plane, and we land in LAX. I take the Uber to the hotel, which happens to be less than a mile from the conference. Had no desire to go to this conference. But I walk into my hotel room, and I found this Facebook post from 2014, November 13th of 2014. Yeah, that was the view from the window of my hotel room, and I wrote, the beach, 70 degrees, I'll take it. But here's what you don't see in that post. What you don't see is, in that moment after taking those pictures, I was overcome with fear. Man, I had so much fear. The first 2 years in my sobriety, I had terrible anxiety, real social anxiety, the kind of anxiety that would come over my entire body, and it would like grab me by the throat, and I couldn't talk, and I would get a little shaky, and I would begin to sweat in really weird ways, and I hated that. Man, I would do public speaking, I hated it. And so I call Chuck. Chuck was my temporary sponsor at the time, and he knew the backstory, and I said, Chuck, man, I'm here. I'm in my hotel room. Things are beautiful, but I cannot go to that conference. I don't even want to go to that conference. And he said, why? And I said, Chuck, man, you don't understand. My body is shaking. I'm so fearful to walk in there. I have all this anxiety. And he says, Ryan, did you invite God in today? And I said, no, Chuck, it's been a busy day of travel. I haven't yet invited God in. And he said, well, I suggest you do that. And then Chuck asked me, he said, Ryan, do you believe you are living in God's will today? That you are in alignment with God? And I said, yes, Chuck, I believe that. But you got to understand, I don't want to go to that conference because I know how it works. They make you introduce yourself, and then you get split up in small groups, and you got to say why you're there and the new thing you're starting. And I don't even want to start a new thing. And I'll never forget what Chuck said to me. He said, my suggestion is after you take a moment to invite God in, Ryan, go down that elevator and then walk less than a mile to that conference. And when you walk in with a confident humility as if you are exactly in the place where God has invited you to be. And that's what I did. I prayed, I invited God in. I got in the elevator, I went down, then I walked less than a mile, and I walked into the conference and I introduced myself. I said, I'm Ryan, I'm here because I like the beach. I didn't really say that. I said, I'm Ryan, I'm here. I don't really know what I'm doing here, but I'm here to learn and to listen. Did my mic just go off? Is it back on? I'm here to learn and I'm here to listen. And honestly, y'all, I don't really remember that 2-day conference. I can't tell you much about it, because that was 2014, and I didn't want to be there. I had no desire to start anything new. I felt totally unqualified. I felt totally unworthy because of my past. It was a time in my life when I was so silent in my recovery, no one knew. I didn't intend for anyone to know that I was in recovery from alcohol addiction. Now fast forward 4 years to 2018, when I'm waking up my wife, Tammy, in the middle of the night, and I'm saying, honey, what if we start a place for addicts and loved ones of addicts and spiritual refugees? How did that happen? And then fast forward to today. I mean, how did that happen? I had no desire of starting anything new. And what I can tell you is during those 4 years, other seeds were growing, seeds I didn't even know were there. A different word was being spoken, and people like Chuck, he taught me how to pay attention to the new word being spoken. And my brothers and sisters, it is a new year. It's 2025. Make every effort to be impeccable with your word. The word you speak to yourself, may it be as sweet as the honey on your lips. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to hear a song together. This song is by the band called Citizen Soldier. Anyone heard of Citizen Soldier? Not many of you, a few of you. Citizen Soldier, they've been coming on my Pandora station recently, and so I Googled them, and I found out Citizen Soldier, they are a Salt Lake City band, and they started in 2016. The lead singer, Jake Segura, was in a psychiatric hospital, and he started writing music. Today, a different word was spoken. He is a clinical therapist, and he writes music about mental health. I invite you to take a moment and reflect. This song is called You Are Enough.
Is it on? Yep. Hi. Welcome back. My name is Carrie. I'm the Associate Executive Director here. And if you're new with us, you should know that every Saturday we bring a community member up into the living room to share on the topic at hand. So something that's going on related to Ryan's message. Little did I know that most of you, if you've come to the 7 o'clock before, you may have heard her. You may know her voice, but you had no idea, where does that come from? Who's that girl? Like, what is she saying? And is she really that joyful? And if you're watching online, you probably hear her too, and you have no idea who she is. So this is amazing. This woman, in the short 2 weeks that I actually heard her story, has already changed my life. She lives what she talks about. I can see so many heads nodding because she has so much support here tonight. So please, please, please help me welcome up Elizabeth to the living room tonight.
Come on.
Come on.
Come on. I love that.
I love your fan club. Thank you all for coming and supporting her.
Yes.
And I think that's a true testament of the impact you've had on so many people's lives. And for those of you or us who don't know you and didn't know, can you kind of tell us about your upbringing, where you started, and kind of those first pivotal years of what makes your story so powerful?
Yes. I was born and raised in Eugene, Oregon. I was born to two parents who struggle with substance use disorder. My father was incarcerated from the time I was a year and a half until currently. He struggles with substance use and incarceration and homelessness. He's in California. My mom is still in Oregon, and she also struggled. And I was raised in an environment that was not conducive for health for a child. A lot of the things that I missed out on is an education. I stopped going to school around the age of 8 years old. I grew up in poverty. I lived in, there was a memory that I have of living in a trailer where we had no electricity, we had no food. I have an older sister, and she would try her hardest to get me to go to school, and she would say, we didn't have a washing machine, so I'd smell like urine, cigarettes, filth. And my sister would like spray perfume on me and push me out the door, and she'd try and give me like nice things to wear as best she could. And I wouldn't go to school, I'd go to the park and I'd play. And my growing up was so fragmented, and there was not a lot of parental guidance or support. It was very scarce, very scarce.
Fortunately, you did have someone who taught you the fundamentals of reading, and you found so much of what you were looking for from that family support system and that love, safety, and belonging through books. Can you talk a little bit about what the words that you were picking up there and how they started to shape your world?
Oh my gosh. If you know me, books are my love language. And if I've ever given you a book, I love you. I started reading, I remember learning the alphabet from my cousin, and I learned to read. Reading saved my life. Reading also is how I found the Bible, which also is a big part of my story too. So yes, so reading started for me at a young age, and something amazing is the library is free. So I was never limited. There was nothing that could take that away. And learning was something that could not be taken from me. It's a posture of curiosity is something I hold a lot of value.
that is something that I live by. Even today, I stay curious. Curiosity and judgment cannot stand, and I choose curiosity always. And so reading is really how I found hope. It's how I saw a story that was different than mine. It's what shaped possibility for me. It gave me hope.
You struggled with substance use at a very, very young age, starting at 11, but luckily, by the age of 18, and your love of reading, you were able to finagle your way back into high school. Can you tell us a little bit about going back to school and then what those years look like and when you stopped using specifically meth?
Yes, I was introduced to methamphetamines at the age of 11, and I struggled with substance use until I was 18, until 2003. I was living homeless. I was struggling, and I remember waking up one day and thinking, is this really my life? And it's almost like I was waiting for a mother or a father to appear and help me get to school, help me, feed me, let me take a shower. And the day never came, and it was like, I have to make a decision. And I decided to go to the high school that I was supposed to have been attending. I'm 18 years old. I walk in, it's a female principal, and she's like pretty progressive. And I explained to her I'd like to go to school. She looks at my school records, and she's like, we have no record of you ever attending school. And I thought, well, because I didn't go to school. Like, I don't have a record. And she was just appalled that this could even happen. And she said, don't tell anybody how old you are, and I'll see you tomorrow. And I showed up at the high school, and I was able to graduate at the age of 20. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Yes. Yes.
And making that choice for yourself, you knew that you had to start, again, being impeccable with your word back then, although that you didn't necessarily know at the time that that's what it was.
Right.
But you had proceeded then to go to college. You eventually did, which is amazing.
I know.
Right? But I want to specifically fast forward a little bit because during that time you said, so 2003, and you can see there's a 20-year gap.
Come on.
Right? But you had stopped using meth, and you believed that at the time that was enough. I'm sure there's people out there who are like, I don't do that one thing, but I can still do this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've danced with that dance before. And that gap, talk to us about the banner on your life and making those decisions. Tell us what that is and how that ultimately changed that date.
Boom. Okay. So, I had that, I was saying it's like a mountaintop experience. But I found myself in a valley again, and it wasn't because I jumped off. It was literally small decisions over a period of time. It was compromises. And eventually I found myself in a dark place, and I woke up and I said, enough. How did I get here? And I'm not using meth, but I'm drinking, and I'm smoking cigarettes, and I'm vaping. I was also, I didn't say this, but I was part of I used to gamble. I was part of here in Colorado Springs, it was like a cigar club, and I would play poker and drink whiskey, and I created this banner over my life, this imaginary banner. This is how it started. And I put 2 words on that banner: healing and growth. And I began to measure everything that I did by how it supported that banner. Literally, at the end of every day, I would ask myself, did the people I spent my time with today, did this support healing and growth? And if it didn't, I stopped spending time with those people. I know. So then I would do the same thing. I'd be like, I would drink with people, have a fun night, wake up the next day and ask myself, does this support healing and growth? And if the answer was no, I stopped. And I began to shift. And I started saying no to a lot of things, but I started saying yes to a lot of things. I know. I was on Facebook and there was like depression, workshop, mental health, wellness, $100. I was like, does that support healing and growth? Yeah. So I signed up. I went to a workshop. I met people. I got invited to other things. Does that support healing and growth? Absolutely. Our thoughts, the words that I speak over myself, does that support healing and growth? I began to move in a completely different direction. And I really discovered my purpose. And it all started with the banner. I began to heal and I began to grow. The banner.
Yeah, and I love that too, because now today, as you can see, is evidence of all these people who came to support you. You come every Saturday.
Come on. So good.
You bring buses of people here. You work in recovery. You really live this thing. You don't just make recovery a part of your life. Talk to us about what you do on Sundays and how you take one step further to help others find their words or their love and belonging that you searched so hard to find.
That's excellent. So I belong to the Sanctuary Church, and this, I know, come on, it's so good. The Sanctuary Church is a beautiful place, and after the service on Sunday nights at 7:45 p.m., we have a meeting called Set Free Sundays. And this meeting is led by some people in our church. Dan Hugel, Christine's here, Melanie, come on, girl. And so in this meeting, it's a little bit different. And one of the examples I was sharing with Carrie is that we break up into small groups. And in that small group of 5 or 6 people, we'll start with one person and they'll say, if you really knew me, you would know. And they share something of shame. We go around the circle. We do it again. If you really, really knew me, you would know. And then again, if you really, really, really knew me, you would know. And we begin to uncover the places that we believe render us unworthy of love or belonging or value. And when we speak those things, what we're doing is we're creating an environment where people can be fully known and fully loved.
Oh, it's so good. And I just keep thinking about like being in that group, and I'm sure there's so many that they don't even probably know what they're getting themselves into when they start a group like that. And I'm sure it keeps getting the more and more that you go and you get your people. And one of the things that I loved about you is you said one of your superpowers is creating community.
Oh, yes.
Right? And I just think that that's so beautiful because like that's what we do here at Free. Clearly, again, you have a plethora of people supporting you both in person and online. So thank you so, so much for being in this community, showing up, sharing your energy. Your energy is authentic and real, as I'm sure you can see. And I'm glad that they all have a face to your name and to your energy here every Saturday night. In closing, I would love for you to tell us a piece of strength to the person who is out there who they don't know where to begin. They're too scared to come in here. They're too scared. They're holding on to that. If you really knew me, you wouldn't accept me or you wouldn't love me. And they're so scared to have that first person see them. What is the first step they can take today to start repairing that self-love?
I believe that suffering and pain must be seen in order to be healed. And so if that's true, I love you guys. If that's true, then shame lives in untold stories. And Brené Brown says that shame dies when stories are told in safe places. So I would encourage the person who's struggling to find a safe person, a sponsor, a pastor, a counselor, a safe space. Maybe it's a recovery meeting where you can tell your story, where you can be seen and you can be loved and you can be free.
Oh, thank you so much. And are you going to stick around so people can get to know you, come talk to you? And she is here every Saturday, so please, please, please get to know her. And one more time, can you give a round of applause to Elizabeth? Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. I asked Elizabeth last service if she always has this much joy, and her response was, yes, she always has this much joy. Thank you for sharing your story with us, Elizabeth. So glad you're part of this. Do we call you Liz or Elizabeth? Okay. Your friends will tell me. Okay, glad you're here. All right, y'all, we're going to go from all this joy in the room to now we're going to bring it down a notch and do what we call heartaches. We do heartaches very similar to how we do celebrations. We start with the good, but we close with heartaches because what we know is sometimes we try to be like professional burden carriers and we try to do it alone, and then we find out that we suck at doing it alone, and you find out you don't have to. It's why you have community. It's why you have people. It's why we have a God who hears the cries of the people. So if tonight, if you need some prayer, some encouragement, some lifting up, well, we take 3 minutes for this, just like celebrations. You can just raise up your hand. Carrie will have a mic on this side, and Teresa. Oh, Teresa's in the back. She'll have a mic on that side. Just raise up your hand if you're carrying a burden, and put some words to it. And if you're joining us online, drop your burdens in the Facebook comments, the YouTube comments, and we'll heartache with you there. Let's take 3 minutes.
My name is Brian. I just need a few extra prayers for my brother Lewis, who's going through an incredible illness. He's got some lung failure going on and needs all the prayers he can get. Thanks.
All right, dude. Lifting up your brother. Prayers for him tonight.
My name's Ron, and I would like some prayers and for my daughter here that she would continue down the right path and God would bring her back to all her loved ones that really care about her. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Lifting you up tonight, Layla. Glad you're here.
My name's Cy. Our clinical director, Kat, her father-in-law is very sick and in the hospital right now. She just went out of town on an emergency, and he's probably not going to be coming out of the hospital. So just some prayers for Kat. She's feeling it right now.
Yeah. Prayers for them and everyone who's surrounded by them and loves them. Thank you, Sai.
I would just ask for some extra prayers right now. My family and I are waiting to hear back. My dad is in kidney failure, and someone just got tested, and so we find out on Tuesday if it's going to be a match. And so everyone is a little bit anxious.
Yeah.
Just so some extra prayers and everything goes well.
Sending extra prayers. Lots of love coming your way.
Hi. I'd like to ask for some prayers, please, for my grandma. She is in the hospital on her deathbed, and she's in a lot of pain. So I just ask for some prayers for her. Thank you.
Prayers for her and prayers for you and the family, holding y'all in the light. Carrie right here.
Hi, I'm glad to be here. It's my first time here for this service, and I'd like to ask for prayers for myself, for one, and other people in my family and some friends who are struggling with a recent suicide in a community of friends of mine who many of those people are struggling with addiction. So I just want to lift all of them up.
Yeah, prayers for them. Thank you for mentioning them. Lifting them up. We got time for one more.
Hi, I'm Max. So my dad committed suicide about, I think it was like 13, 14 years ago. And I just pray that God can, that he can forgive himself for what he did, and that God can bring him up to his kingdom.
Yeah. We believe in things like forgiveness here. Those are the things that set us free, and they're always freely given by God. Prayers for you. Man, time's out. Okay, thank you all for being vulnerable enough to lift up your burdens in this community. Carrie, do you want to join me up here for some heartaches? That was the most joyous yes I've ever seen. Of course. Thank you, Teresa, for passing some mics tonight.
I'm on the wrong side.
You are on the wrong
Okay.
side. See, I'm a creature of habit. I do better in routine. Okay.
Me or you?
You.
Okay.
You get the first one.
Hi, Mark. My heartache tonight is my heart is going out to all those affected from the tragedy in NOLA.
New Orleans?
New Orleans?
Louisiana. Oh, Carrie does not follow the news much.
I don't want to know. You can tell me
There
later.
was a great tragedy, lots of lives lost, and a terrible a senseless act of violence. And so thank you, Mark, for lifting up all of them, families and loved ones who were affected by that, holding them in prayer. Stephen says, and I'll explain that to you later.
Yeah.
And she's been on vacation, so she's been gone. And anyway, Stephen says, please pray for all those that are homeless and not feeling safe. Yes, Stephen, very important to keep them in mind, and in our prayers, praying for them tonight. And that's the last one of our online community. Thank you, Carrie, for joining me up here. And listen, y'all, before we close and go home for the evening, I want to let you know that if this is your community, if this is your people, your place, your home, your tribe, whatever you call us here, well, we do rely on your generous giving. In fact, without your giving, this place truly doesn't exist. And I know many of you have made giving a sacrificial practice in your life. You've made it a spiritual practice in your life. And I know you're conscious and aware of all the other things you could do with your money, and you give because you believe in the mission. If you've been impacted by the mission of breaking the silence of addiction and creating space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection, well, we value your generosity here. If you'd like to donate to Free, there's a few different ways to do it. You can download the app, Free Recovery Community. It's free to download. All of our content is on there, messages, guest storytellers. There's a giving button. You can give one time, or you can give weekly or monthly. However you choose to do it, we're grateful for all of it. You can do the exact same thing on the website, freerecoverycommunity.com. There is also giving kiosks, one outside this door, one outside these doors for you check and cash type people if you'd like to give that way. And there is the dip jar. It lives on the little black table just outside these doors. It's about the size of a shoebox. And how it works is you take a credit card, you dip it in, you dip it out, then it lights up so you get to feel good about your giving. It's set at $20, so you can't give more than or less than $20. That's the number we landed on because it seemed like a reasonable number to land on. If you want to check out the dip jar, just outside these doors. And again, we truly are grateful for your giving here. It makes a big difference. Thank you for being a part of it. Shall we go out with a prayer? Yes, let's do that. I would invite you. And if you're at home, you can do the same thing. Just open up the hands. There's nothing magical about it. It's just a simple sign of openness. Maybe you're open to a new word tonight, that you're going to live by a different word. You're going to stop beating yourself up. You're going to stop with the shame. You're going to step onto a different path. Welcome in the one who says, you're enough. You're good enough. You've done enough. Just take a big, deep breath. Yeah, and exhale that breath. If you don't know the Lord's Prayer, we'll pray it together. It's on your screen, and it goes like this. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Grace and peace. We'll see you all next time.